"I can't keep this secret anymore," he whispered, barely audible over the pounding rain. His hands trembled as he slid the small, worn envelope across the table. I stared at it, my heart tightening with every beat. That envelope, so ordinary, yet holding a weight I had never imagined bearing. The room felt suddenly colder, the shadows lengthening as the storm outside raged on. I wanted to look away, to pretend this moment would pass like any other ordinary night. But I couldn't. Not when his eyes were searching mine for some glimmer of understanding. The silence between us was a chasm filled with unspoken truths, the kind that unravel love and bind us in fear. I slowly reached out, fingertips brushing the envelope's corner. A shiver ran through me, not from the cold, but from that quiet dread gnawing at my soul. "Why now?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. He looked away, jaw clenched, as if the answer might shatter us both. But I knew this was the night everything would change. The question wasn't whether I was ready, but whether life would ever be the same again. What was inside that envelope? And how did it connect to the man I thought I knew? We'll unravel it all, little by little. But first, I need to tell you about the night that led us here. The envelope sat between us like a fragile promise waiting to be shattered. I reached for it again, peeling open the seal with a trembling hand. Inside were letters, handwritten, yellowed with age, each word dripping with a pain and longing that felt almost unbearable to read. His voice broke the stillness. "These were hidden for decades, things I never wanted you to find." I unfolded the first letter slowly, the creased paper whispering secrets long buried. The handwriting was familiar, soft, careful, like a trembling hand clinging to hope. Each sentence carved deeper into my heart, telling a story of love, betrayal, and sacrifices made under the weight of silence. "How could you carry this all alone?" I asked, my throat thick with tears. He swallowed hard, eyes shadowed by regret. "I thought I was protecting you, and them." The storm outside seemed to echo the turmoil inside. Thunder rolled and lightning flashed, illuminating the pain that unfolded between us, chapter by heartbreaking chapter. But the deeper I read, the more questions arose. What was the secret he tried to hide? Who was behind the pain in these letters? And most haunting of all, was the truth something I was ready to face? There's more to this story than just words on paper. The night these letters were found marked the beginning of a journey neither of us could have predicted. Stay close. The next chapter will reveal the first piece of the puzzle. The clock ticked loudly in the quiet room, but my mind was elsewhere, lost in those fragile letters, soaked in years of hidden pain. One phrase kept echoing in my head, a whisper from the past. "I never wanted you to know the truth." Questions buzzed like restless bees. What truth? Why the fear? And most of all, who was the you he was protecting? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak and sigh of the old house seemed magnified, mirroring the storm inside me. The letters felt like a door I couldn't close, a secret clawing its way into my life. I tried to put the pieces together, but some were missing. Details tangled in shadows, their meaning just out of reach. Morning came heavy with silence. Harold was distant, as if the weight pressed on him even more. I saw his hands, usually steady, clenching and unclenching, like he was wrestling with memories better left unspoken.
Then a name stood out in the letters. Eleanor. She was written about in trembling lines, sometimes with love, sometimes with fear. Was she a key to unraveling everything? The day crept by in a haze of anticipation and dread. I avoided his eyes, knowing the questions were bouncing there, unasked but loud as thunder. And then, just as the sun dipped low, a knock at the door shattered the fragile calm. A stranger's voice called my name, soft but urgent. That unexpected visitor marked the turning point, the moment when the past refused to stay silent any longer. Who was that visitor? And what did they want? The answers will lead us deeper into the shadows of the past. Coming up next, the story unfolds further. The knock came again, softer this time, tentative, almost hesitant. I opened the door to find a woman framed by the gray dusk, her eyes holding a strange mix of familiarity and sorrow. She clutched a small, leather-bound diary, worn at the edges like it had traveled through time itself. "I'm here about the letters," she said, voice trembling but steady. "My name is Grace." A shiver ran down my spine. The name stirred something deep inside me, unearthed memories I thought were safely locked away. Grace, a stranger with secrets woven into every page of that battered diary. I could sense the weight she carried, the invisible thread connecting her story to ours. Inside, the air felt thick with unspoken truths as she handed me the diary. The leather was cool, but the stories it contained burned hot on my fingertips, promising answers and more questions. Harold watched us silently from the hall, his face drawn tight. I glanced at him, searching for a sign, any clue about why this sudden arrival unsettled him so much. Grace took a breath, her eyes never leaving mine. This diary belonged to Eleanor. That name again, Eleanor, the woman who hovered like a ghost over every hidden letter. My heart pounded. Who was she really? And what dark chapters did this diary hold? I flipped through the brittle pages, each word a whisper from the past. The first entry began with a confession, raw and unguarded, as if Eleanor had poured out her soul to these pages as her only refuge. The secrets were unfolding faster than I could keep pace, and with every turn of the page, I felt the walls closing in. Who was Eleanor hiding? And why did her story feel so intertwined with my own life? In the next chapter, we dive into the first shocking revelations. Eleanor's words spilled out on the fragile pages, her voice echoing through the decades. Her diary revealed a world I hadn't imagined, full of whispered promises and broken dreams. She wrote of love that dared not speak its name, of fights fought silently behind closed doors, and of a longing to escape a life trapped by expectations. I read one entry over and over. If only I could be free to choose my own path, without fear or shame. I felt the weight of those words deep in my chest. Eleanor's pain was no different from the quiet aches someone like me knows all too well, hopes deferred, dreams hidden beneath duties. But there was more. A name appeared again and again, Samuel. Who was he? Friend, lover, enemy? His shadow loomed over Eleanor's writings with a mix of warmth and menace, like a storm not yet past. Harold finally broke his long silence. Samuel was Eleanor's brother. The room spun for a moment. Brother or not, the tension between those names pulsed with danger, and the tangled family secrets were pulling me into a web I wasn't sure I wanted to unravel. As I closed the diary, I could feel Grace watching me, her presence both comforting and unsettling. She said, "There's more, and it's not just Eleanor's story anymore." A chill ran down my spine. The past was alive, creeping into the present with every breath we took. What dark secrets were yet to be revealed? How deeply did Eleanor's story reach into our lives? The answers lie just ahead, waiting to be uncovered in the coming chapters. Grace's eyes darkened as she shared the story that wasn't in the letters or the diary, something far more personal, far more dangerous. Eleanor wasn't just hiding from family conflict. There was a betrayal that shattered everything. A cold knot twisted in my gut. Betrayal? By who? Grace hesitated, but then her voice dropped to a whisper. By someone Eleanor trusted more than anyone, someone she thought would protect her. The room shrank around me as the weight of her words settled. Harold's jaw tightened, his fingers gripping the armrest like a lifeline. He finally spoke, voice cracked with years of regret. I buried that truth, hoping it would stay hidden. I looked at him. Every layer of the man I thought I knew peeling away, revealing a past tangled in shadows. The betrayal wasn't just a story. It was the reason for the silence, the secrets, and the heavy distance that had grown between us. I needed to know more, but fear kept catching in my throat. Could I bear the whole truth? Could our fragile life survive it?
Grace opened the diary again, revealing a folded photograph tucked between pages. It was faded and fragile, showing a younger Eleanor, eyes fierce but haunted, and standing beside her, a man with a face blurred by time but undeniably familiar. The storm outside had calmed, but inside, a tempest brewed, ready to break. Who was this man, and what had he done? The truth was closer than ever, but so was the pain. Stay with me. The next chapter brings the haunting revelation. I traced my fingers across the faded photograph as if it held the answers I so desperately sought. The man beside Eleanor was a ghost from the past, his blurred features hinting at shadows I wasn't yet ready to face. Grace's voice was soft but firm. His name was Joseph. Eleanor's trust in him was everything, and her undoing. The room seemed to close in, every breath heavy with the weight of history. Harold glanced away, every line on his face deepening with old pain. Joseph wasn't just a man. He was a part of our family's darkest secret. Suddenly, the years between us collapsed, and I could see how carefully the truth had been buried beneath decades of silence and fear. Questions clawed at my mind. What had Joseph done? Why had Eleanor's trust turned into a betrayal so devastating it changed their lives forever? The unknown gnawed at me, but the need to uncover the full story was stronger than any fear. I would need courage, the kind Eleanor herself might have wished for. With the diary open and the photograph held tight, I faced the most difficult part yet, confronting the truth the shadows had guarded so fiercely. What terrible secret did Joseph hold? How had it shattered the lives around him? The next chapter will bring answers, but also more heartbreak. Joseph's name carved a hollow space in my chest. I needed to understand why his presence had cast such a long shadow over Eleanor's life and ours. Grace opened the diary to a page that felt heavier than the rest, brittle with age but bursting with unspoken pain. Eleanor's handwriting was jagged here, her words sharp with fear and desperation. I trusted him with everything, only to find the darkest betrayal. I carry the scars, but not the shame. Not anymore. A chill ran through the room. Harold's face was pale, voice barely a whisper. Joseph's betrayal wasn't just personal. It threatened everything we held dear.
I looked at Grace, searching for answers, but her eyes told their own story of hurt and loss. The diary hinted at secrets coded in silences and fragmented memories, secrets that seemed to bind us all in a web of protected lies. The photograph, Joseph's blurred face, haunted me. Who was he really? What had he done to fracture a life that seemed so ordinary on the surface? The night wore on, but the truth remained just out of reach, teasing me with every page turned and every shadow cast. What was Joseph's secret? And how far did the betrayal reach? Next, the unbearable truth will finally surface. The truth hit me like a thunderclap, a secret so dark it risked swallowing us whole. Joseph's betrayal was not a mere mistake or a broken promise. It was a storm that tore through Eleanor's world and echoed into my own life, reshaping everything I thought I knew. Eleanor's diary whispered the horror of trust, shattered by violence, betrayal laced with danger. Joseph had crossed a line so unforgivable, it forced Eleanor to hide, to protect herself in ways I struggled to imagine. Harold's voice broke through the silence, raw and trembling. He was never the man we thought he was. Fear and sorrow clashed in his eyes, memories that had been locked away now surfacing in painful waves. We buried the past, but it never truly left us. I felt a cold knot tighten inside me. How could the love I had trusted be built on such fragile, fractured ground? As the night folded around us, the pieces of Eleanor's story came together, painting a portrait not just of loss, but of incredible resilience, the kind only a broken heart could forge. What happened after Eleanor's world shattered? How did she survive? And what part did Harold play in the story? The answers lie ahead as the journey into the past deepens. Eleanor's resilience unfolded like a flicker of dawn after the darkest night. Her words, etched in the diary, told of a woman who refused to be broken, who fought invisibly, with quiet strength and fierce determination. But beneath her courage lay scars deeper than I could see. She chose silence, hoping to protect those she loved, but every unspoken truth was a weight pulling her under. Harold's confession cut through the silence. I promised to keep her safe, but some promises come with unbearable cost. I saw the man behind the husband, the protector, torn between betrayal and loyalty. Every detail of his past tangled with Eleanor's story, weaving threads of sacrifice and sorrow. Together, they had faced the shadows, but the hardest battles were still ahead, hidden by years of silence and fear. The storm outside had long passed, but inside, the tempest of truth roared louder than ever. How did Eleanor and Harold face the final reckoning? What sacrifices were made, and what secrets held them together? The next chapter brings the emotional climax you've been waiting for. The climax of Eleanor's story was more than I expected. It was a flood of emotions, raw and overwhelming. The diary bared the moments when hope seemed lost, when betrayal cut deepest. Yet, amid the darkness, there were sparks, acts of courage and love that defied the odds. Eleanor's struggle was not just to survive, but to reclaim her dignity and peace. Harold's voice was steady now, filled with the weight of hard-won wisdom. We had to face the pain together. There was no going back. I saw their love not as flawless, but as real, scars, mistakes, and all. The truth wasn't about perfection. It was about forgiveness, resilience, and the strength to keep moving forward. As I close Eleanor's diary, the final pages held a message of hope. Despite the shadows, life found a way to bloom in unexpected places. The secret that had haunted decades was laid bare, and with it came a chance to heal. The ending is near, but the final revelation, what happened that fateful night, and the hope it brought, will stay with you long after the story is told. Stay with me for the closing chapters. The night had drawn its final curtain, but the echoes of those long hidden secrets still hummed in the quiet air. As I looked at Harold, I saw the man who had carried burdens too heavy for words, a man shaped by love and loss alike. The diary's last entries held the resolution, the moment when the pain was met with forgiveness, when wounds began to heal, and when hope, fragile but fierce, took root. Eleanor's story was no longer just hers, it was ours, woven into the fabric of my own life, binding past and present in a thread of understanding and grace. We learned that even in the darkest of nights, the human spirit can find light, that resilience doesn't mean forgetfulness, but the courage to move forward, carrying memories like a gentle flame. Harold took my hand gently, the weight between us easing just a little. The past will never disappear, but it doesn't have to define us. And with that, I felt the first real breath of peace in years. The ending is almost complete, but the story's true gift lies in the wisdom it leaves behind. The final chapter will close this tale and leave you with a message to carry in your own heart. As the story comes to a close, I want to leave you with this. Life, with all its secrets and shadows, teaches us something precious. Sometimes the toughest journeys lead us not to easy answers, but to deeper understanding. Eleanor's story was one of pain, yes, but also of bravery. The bravery to face the unknown, to forgive, and to find light even when it seemed impossible. Her story reminds me that none of us are alone in our struggles. We carry the weight of the past, but we also carry the power to heal and to hope. If there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this. Hold tightly to your truth, even when it shakes you. Let love and forgiveness guide your path, and know that resilience blooms in hearts that refuse to give up. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If Eleanor's story touched your heart, please share it with someone who might need a little hope today. And don't forget to subscribe to Grandma's True Stories, where stories like hers live on. Stories of courage, love, and the quiet strength of the human spirit. Until next time, may your days be filled with warmth, and may you always find the light in your darkness.